Hello friends, I am Arpit and I am here with today's analysis. Today is 16th of May and we're going to cover three very important topics which are in news. First is Supreme Court orders the release of NewsClick founder who was arrested in October 2023. Charges: he was alleged to have taken funds from China and carry out anti-India propaganda or pro-China propaganda in India via his news portal. Arrested under UAPA, that is Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. Grounds for release is that the Delhi police, before arresting him, did not declare the reasons why he was being arrested. So the Supreme Court, while giving this judgment, clearly said that the procedures or the due process of law, which is giving enough guardrails to the people, is upheld by the judiciary over here. Rules are rules for everybody. Next is BJP candidate from Hyderabad summit. Actually, Madhavi Lata has become very popular after her show on Aapki Adalat. She is contesting against Asasuddin Owaisi, and she, on the election day, was there in the polling booths, uncovering the burqa clad females and checking their voter ID cards. She, as per law, does not have any authority to do so. It is the mandate or it is the prerogative of Election Commission of India to verify the voters. But since she was doing it, so she has been booked by the police, Hyderabad police, on the behest of Election Commission of India. Next is exercise Tarkash. Exercise Tarkash is a, an exercise between the special forces on behalf of India, the National Security Guard, NSG Special Forces, and on behalf of USA, the Special Operating Forces, they take part in this. The objective is to develop combat capabilities in urban terrorist attacks. Terrorist attacks in urban areas like it happened in 2611, Mumbai. So, in those attacks, what should be the standard operating procedures? These two forces are developing this interoperability via this exercise. So, let's get started with the first topic, and that is the Supreme Court orders the release of NewsClick founder. So, NewsClick founder, Mr. Prabir Porkayasta, was arrested in October 2023, and now he has been ordered to get released. Reason: Delhi police failed to inform Purkayastha the grounds of his arrest before taking him into custody. Now, this ruling was given by Justice B.R. Gavai, and it is very significant because proper procedure and due process are guardrails against arbitrary action of the authorities, even in stringent terror cases. This UAPA, Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, is a very stringent law of the government dealing with any terrorist or secessionist kind of activities. So, what was the terrorist activity which under which this Mr. Prabir was arrested? It is known that, or there were allegations that the portal received funds for pro-China propaganda in the country, and those funds were coming from China to spread this kind of propaganda, pro-China propaganda in India, and which was considered as an unlawful activity because it was, I would say, interpreted as a threat to India's territorial integrity. So, this was the reason for his arrest. But in all this, we need to understand and we need to know this particular law, that is Unlawful Activities Prevention Act 1967. It is from here where questions have been asked by UPSC, and this particular law is in news time and again. Now, this law for the very first time was promulgated in the year 1967 by the Congress government, and at that time it was only targeting secessionist organizations, no terrorist organizations, only secessionist organizations, and mind you, no individuals, only organizations. And it is considered to be a precursor to acts like such as TADA and Prevention of Terrorism Act, POTA. So POTA was finally repealed in 2012 too, and there was an amendment in UAPA. UAPA made in 1967. These acts made in 1990s. So that is why it is a precursor to these acts. But these acts were finished in 2002. POTA was finished in 2002, and there was an amendment in UAPA in 2004. I will let you know the amendment as well. Let's proceed as of now. It aims at effective prevention of unlawful activities in India. Unlawful activities refers to any action taken by individual or association intended to disrupt the territorial integrity and sovereignty of India. Now, individual was not there in the beginning. It was added in 2019. Before 2019, UAPA was only for organizations. 1967 Successionist Organization. There was an amendment in 2004 which included terrorist organizations also. So from then on, UAPA was for successionist organization plus terrorist organizations. From 2019 onwards, when there was this amendment, it was for successionist organizations, terrorist organizations, and individuals who were indulging in any successionist activity or a terrorist activity. So, this is basically the timeline of this particular act. It assigns absolute power to the authorities to interpret that whether the activity done by any organization and individual is an unlawful activity or not. Key provisions: punishment under this act, death penalty, and life imprisonment. These are the two levels of punishment, means the highest levels are these only. Charge sheet. Charge sheet is basically, when a person is arrested, after that investigation starts. Investigation starts and the investigation has to be, the findings of investigation has to be submitted in the courts. Minimum 180 days can be taken and it can be extended also. What happens to you during investigation is happening? Are you allowed to get bail? Sorry, the bail provisions are very, very stringent in this. We look into the bail provisions as well. Now, there was an amendment in 2004. Before 2004, as I told you, the act was only for secessionist organizations. From 2004 onwards, it was for secessionist organizations plus terrorist organizations. No individuals as of now. 2019 amendment, secessionist organizations plus terrorist organizations plus individuals indulged in this. There were more provisions in the 2019 amendment. It empowered the Director General of NIA, National Investigation Agency, to grant approval of seizure or attachment of the property of the persons who are involved in any unlawful activity. The act empowers the officers of the NIA of the rank of inspector or above to investigate cases of terrorism, in addition to those conducted by DSP or ACP, above rank in the state police. Now, here is a violation of the federal principles. An officer from the central government is also investigating, and earlier the officers of the state police, which are under the state government, were also investigating. One such drawback of this. Then, personal financial information of an individual designated as a terrorist can be shared with various Western agencies. This was allowed. So this was the 2019 amendment, and in 2019 there was a question in mains asked in GS paper 3 with respect to the 2019 amendment specifically. So you had to know all these provisions which were there, and obviously you had to know the provisions which were existing earlier in this act. Now there are multiple issues related to this act, and obviously there will be, because this act is too stringent. It gives over the board powers to the authorities, and authorities at times have misused these powers. Whenever the powers have been misused, the courts definitely have stepped in. Like in the present case, also the court has stepped in. But yes, we cannot deny the incidences of misuse of power. Now, the issue related with this, the first is misuse of the law by the state. There's this NCRB data from 2016 to 2019, these 3 years, 4231 FIRs were filed under UAPA. And how many convictions were there? Only 112 convictions were there. Roughly 3 to 3%. Vague definition of terrorist act. So, what is a terrorist act? According to UAPA, it offers an overboard and ambiguous definition of terrorist act, which includes the death of or injuries to any person, damage to any property, etc. Let's suppose I get an altercation with someone and I cause damage to his or her property. I can be booked, ideally, as per the definition, I can be booked under UAPA. So, definition of this terrorist act is very, very vague over here, and this vague definition is taken advantage by the authorities. Denial of bail. Bail is not granted very easily. Section 43D5 of this particular law makes the bail provisions very stringent. If the authorities, investigative authorities, feel that by giving bail, we will not be able to carry out our investigation properly, bail will be denied. So it is not easy to get bail in this. Then pendency of trials. Our justice delivery system, you know how it is. So तारीख पे तारीख तारीख पे तारीख तारीख पे तारीख is quite normal. And in a stringent case where bail provisions are stringent, where over the board authorities, over the board powers are there with the authorities, these kind of things happen. Justice delivery is delayed. So that is basically is like sprinkling salt on the wounds, which are already too deep. Then anarchy by the state. It gives the state authority vague powers to detain and arrest individuals who it believes to be indulged in terrorist activities. Now, I clearly remember in 2021 there was this World Cup T20 match which India lost against Pakistan, and it is the only match which India has lost against Pakistan. It was a T20 World Cup, and there were some students who were celebrating Pakistan's victory, and they were arrested under UAPA. So this was anarchy by the state. Thus, the state gives itself more powers vis-a-vis individual liberty guaranteed under 21 of the Constitution. And it undermines federalism, as I told you, that 2019 amendment, which gave officers of NIA the right to investigate, apart from investigations done by ACP or DSP rank police officers of the state police. So, NIA is overpassing or trespassing the powers of the state government. So, this is where it is undermining federalism. Then the courts on UAPA. The courts have come into action on UAPA on such a stringent law. Now, there was this case, Union of India versus K.A. Najib case in 2021. Now, this K.A. Najib was a person who was there in the Kerala jail, arrested under UAPA, and did not get a chance of a single hearing till 5 years. Just imagine, without a hearing, he's waiting for the hearing, and since he cannot get bail, he's there in the jail. Someone filed a PIL in Supreme Court, and then Supreme Court took cognizance of this particular case, granted K.A. Najib bail. They said that, the vigors of law, the clutches of the law will weaken if justice delivery is delayed. Justice delivery has to be done properly. If it is not done, then it is a violation of right to life of that individual, and that is above any law. Delhi High Court in 2021 granted bail to three persons: Natasha Narwal, Devangana Kalita, and Asif Iqbal Tanha. These people were arrested during the Delhi riots, CAA protests. And here the Delhi High Court took reference of this particular case in the Supreme Court, which happened in the same year only. This happened in June. This happened somewhere in January, February, and granted them bail. Now, what can be the now this case? NewsClick founder granted bail. The reason here is he was not arrested in a proper manner. He was not given the information that why he is being arrested by the Delhi police. Now, way forward, what can be the way forward? Prevent misuse. Misuse should be prevented because we are living in a liberal democracy. Effective law enforcement should be there. Higher standards of proof should be submitted. Role of judiciary, it should be fast tracked. It should not be like delayed. Cases under UAPA especially should be taken or should be given priority. This is how these cases should be looked at. Next is BJP candidate from Hyderabad Samant. So Madhavi Lata is that lady who is contesting, and she is fighting these elections in against Asasuddin Owaisi, a very, I would say, popular leader as well. So this battle in Hyderabad is very fiery. She got popularity when she visited Rajat Sharma's Aapki Adalat as well, and her episode was, I would say, uh, praised by the Prime Minister himself. Now she went over the board and she was, look on the election day at the polling booth. She was, unveiling the burqa of the female sitting over there, checking their ID cards. A video went viral. The question is that is she allowed to do that? Is it under her prerogative? What is Election Commission of India doing? Actually, identifying, or I would say, uh, you know, requisitioning the identity or verifying the identity is the prerogative of Election Commission of India, not the candidate's prerogative. It is. Candidates and her people can be present on the polling booth, but they cannot interfere or they cannot indulge in electoral practices like these. These are the jobs of Election Commission of India, and that is why she was booked. She was booked by the Hyderabad police under Section 171C of IPC, undue influence at an election, Section 186 of IPC, obstructing a public servant, Section 5051C of IPC, intent to incite violence, and Section 132 of the Representation of Peoples Act 1931, misconduct at the polling station. So these were the four sections under which she has been booked. Now, identification of women in burqa. See, women in burqa or women in a ghungat. This is not something new in our society. Earlier, this practice was more prevalent. Now, it might have reduced a ghungat or burqa. So, Election Commission of India faced these kind of challenges right from the very beginning. And Election Commission of India, in order to uphold the privacy of the candidates, took certain requisite measures. Like they created a makeshift zone in which a female officer will be there, female electoral officer will be there, and she will be, verifying the identity by unveiling the burqa of that, and nobody else apart from that officer will be seeing that. And this provision has been done by Election Commission of India. This is part of the electoral rules as well. But it has not given the this particular right to the candidates that they will be verifying the identity. In one of the videos which I saw, that she was basically questioning the age of the voter, that you don't look this much, how it is written on your voter ID card. These kind of things were happening. God knows. By doing this, will you be able to secure more votes? I think nowadays the Janta is so much aware that they will disregard this. You will lose out on popularity if you do this. So what the Election Commission of India says, if sufficiently large number of Pardanashin, burqa clad women electors are assigned to your polling station, because you have the list who all are going to come to vote, you should make special arrangements for their identification and application of indelible ink on the left index finger by a lady polling officer. So a lady polling officer should be there in such polling booths in a separate enclosure having due regards to privacy, dignity, and decency. So a separate enclosure will be constructed so that privacy, dignity, decency is upheld of the voter. That is not compromised. The candidate's actions, the responsibility and right to verify the identity of voter lies with the Election Commission of India only, not the contesting candidates. And she obviously was booked under this. Candidates or their polling agents are allowed to access polling stations. They can be there at the polling stations in the constituency to ensure that polling process is conducted without interference. However, they are not permitted to intervene in the polling process. This was considered as intervention in the polling process by her. Madhavi Lata's actions was viewed as interference, and therefore the ECI's behest, she was booked by the police. So those four sections which we studied earlier, under those sections she has been booked. Next is exercise Tarkash. Now exercise Tarkash is a joint exercise between India and the US, and the main aim of this exercise, or the main domain under which they are establishing interoperability, is urban counter terrorism contingencies. In urban areas, if there is a terrorist attack, how we can, you know, encounter that? What should be the standard operating procedures? It was a 3 weeks exercise which concluded in Kolkata. So it started from April 22 or something like that. Now, about this exercise, it is the seventh edition of this exercise, Indo-US Joint Counter-Terrorism Exercise. It is held between NSG of India, National Security Guard of India, and US Special Operation Forces, SOF. It commenced on April 22, 2004, and now it has been concluded. Objective of this exercise is, primary objective of the bilateral exercise is to build functional relation and enhance interoperability between the two special forces in conducting coordinated counter-terror operations in urban counter-terrorism contingencies. So in urban areas, the focus is of this particular exercise is in urban areas. It also involves sharing of best practices, tactics, techniques, and procedures over a wide spectrum of counter-terror operations in urban environment, including close quarter of battle, building intervention drills, and hostage rescue operations, etc., etc. Similar kind of situation happened during the 26/11 Mumbai attacks, an urban area. It was attacked by terrorists. These terrorists take hostages and all these things happen, and how to tackle these. Now, the MCQs. First is, consider the following statements and mark the correct one. Very carefully read this question. UAPA 1967 targeted individuals and organizations who were involved in secessionism. There is no definition of terrorism under UAPA. Out of these, which are correct? Which of the following is feature of Unlawful Activities Prevention Act? Bail cannot be granted in case of arrest under UAPA. The minimum period for filing charge sheet is 120 days. The courts can intervene and grant bail if a person is arrested under UAPA, or none of the above. So among these four, which one is correct? Relatively, this is easy. Under which article of the Constitution the Election Commission of India is mandated to conduct free and fair elections? Purposefully, I have given this question. Might be seeming easy, can be easy for can be easy for many people, but I have not discussed this, and it is very actually commonsensical also, and it is very popular. Not commonsensical, but very popular. You should be knowing this. The fourth question is, consider the following and mark the correct statements. Candidates or their representatives are allowed access to polling stations during elections. The ECI can make special provisions for certain sections of the society to uphold their privacy. Very easy question it is. You should be able to answer this. And the last is exercise Tarkash is conducted between which of the forces? Armies of India and USA, Air Forces of India and USA, Navies of India and USA, none of the above. So, with this, we come to an end of today's session. I will be meeting you tomorrow now with more such informative news pieces. Till then, you guys very well know what to do. Keep studying, keep reading, keep writing, keep watching the videos, and most importantly, keep revising. Namaste. Jai.